What's something you didn't realize was very American until you left the US? I moved to the Netherlands 8 years ago. Probably the biggest one to me was working while sick. For 20 years, I came to work every day, unless I physically could not. Like I had to be so sick, I legitimately could not make myself get out of bed. And even then, I felt bad. I wasn't here for maybe 3 months when I got a cold, and my boss came around to my desk and sent me home. I was still in my probation period. I was super worried that if I took a sick day, I'd be fired and sent back on a plane to the US. My family mad as shit at me. I told him I'd go home, but I'd have my laptop on me. No, you will go home and rest. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow. No, you will stay home until you are well. I will not discuss this further. When I came back well, several days later, my boss sent an American colleague around to talk to me. This guy had been there 10 years. He told me that they don't want you getting anyone else sick, and there's unlimited sick time for a reason. So now I'm the one telling new arrivals to use their sick time. Edit. No, we're not hiring right now. Ranch dressing, ranch-flavored Doritos are still sold, but they're labeled American flavor. Here in the US, outside of big cities, it's pretty much required to drive a car. When I lived abroad for a few years, I was able to survive completely off public transport, the occasional taxi, and walking on my own 2 feet. Eating a meal really quickly, I was just in England, and even relatively casual restaurants, the waiter's only checking up on you 2 to 3 times in an hour because they assume you're going to take your time and enjoy your meal. I walked into a restaurant an hour before close, and they specifically told me, "We close in 1 hour. Are you sure you will have enough time?" And my only thought was that I could eat it as fast as they could make it. Multiple times I would be seated, order, eat, and pay before other groups that were already there when I arrived would be done with their appetizers. Americans eat fast. We're also used to being rushed out of restaurants because waitstaff are looking to get as many people through in a night for their tips. Having a no-tips culture really makes the experience better for the diner. I don't care which one we decide to go with, but can't the world just decide on one type of electrical outlet? Red Solo cups. When I studied abroad in New Zealand, everyone asked me about them. Granted, this was at the height of Jersey Shore's popularity. Ice and cold beverages. Worked in China, no ice and room temp water. I was so excited when my translator turned to me while we were ordering food and said he wants to know if you want ice. I said they have ice, yes. She laughed, the guy behind the counter laughed, and then she said, no, they do not have ice. A big culture shock to me in Europe was that there were many major cities that weren't filled with skyscrapers, like there typically is in major cities in the USA. I guess it isn't specifically American, as many large cities in parts of Asia also have a lot of skyscrapers. But it definitely threw me for a loop. Free public restrooms. Not saying they're clean or nice in the US, but it was annoying trying to remember to carry coins around Paris to be able to pee. I didn't truly appreciate 24-hour grocery stores when I lived in the US. Moved to Belgium. It was a weirdly hard transition to only being able to shop during more normal hours. Then moved back to the US right before COVID, and now we don't even have 24-hour stores in the US anymore. Have it your way. A Burger King slogan, but also a general mindset that is very American consumer coded. My first day in Germany, I went to a cafe and saw they had vanilla lattes and caramel frappes on their menu, so I asked if I could have a latte but with caramel, not vanilla, and the lady cut me off and said, no, you order from the menu. In general, I found that people were not open to any sort of customization requests at restaurants LOL. The size of coffees, Iceland, Italy, Turkey, all served as espresso shots. You drink and go about your business. An Icelander ribbed me about wanting my American-sized coffee so I could walk around and carry it all day like a baby bottle. Healthcare being tied to employment. A few years back, I read a Quora post where an American guy answered the same question. He was living in the UK for his job, and someone took him aside and told him to stop asking people what church they go to when meeting them. He was from the Midwest and was shocked that this was not a normal part of getting to know somebody. I was shocked when I read it because I'm from New York, and only religious fanatics and mentally ill people ask where you go to church. But he said it was a totally normal part of small talk when meeting someone in the Midwest. The loudness. My fellow Americans talk so loud all the time. Opinions with no factual basis. Living in Japan now, if they don't know something, they will say, sorry, I don't know enough about that subject. It's so refreshing. a sea everywhere. I went on a business trip to Germany, 80 degrees outside, and my German coworkers simply open a window for some air exchange. I go to the mall to get a SIM card for my phone, and most of the mall does not have AC. There are two Ross cooking ingredients that I used regularly in the US, but simply cannot find here in Mexico: buttermilk and molasses. Now maybe this is more of a southern US thing, but I spent 20 years in the northern burbs of Chicago and had no problem finding these ingredients. But here, they just are not available. Window screens. Yes, Germany, you do have bugs if there's grass in a park nearby. If you have grass and no bugs, you have a very different problem. Garbage disposals, fluoride in water, iced beverages. Convenience being paramount to everything, for better or worse. Wearing shorts in the city, was amazed how rarely I wore shorts living in Germany. Realized I stuck out like a sore thumb as an American wearing shorts out to a restaurant. Garages being on pretty much every home. Driving long distances, a 4-hour drive is pretty much nothing to an American. Seems like a massive distance to a European. Edit, vacation homes. Flag of country outside of homes. Tipping. As a kid, I figured that was normal everywhere in the world. As I got older, I realized people look sometimes at you weird, and it can even be considered insulting in some situations. Poor public transit. If I were to miss my train, subway in Philadelphia, if it's not delayed, could be 15 to 30 minutes until the next train. When I'm in Vienna, my fiance was ahead of me and was on the train and was unable to stop the doors as it left without me. The next train was 4 minutes later. I just met him at the next stop. It was wild. Not having any federally protected time off work. In Europe, most countries have federal laws stating employees get a certain amount of time off for vacation, not including sick time, and it's paid for by the employer. Here in the US, you're lucky if your job offers any PTO, even for sickness. Drying machines. I travel to Indonesia. Often and damn, washing machines are common enough, but it's rare to have a place that has an actual drying machine. Everything is air dried, and I can't stand the smell of mildew on clothes if they haven't dried properly. Cheerleaders. Fraternities and sororities at universities. Driving to places that are in walking distance. Southern USA. Buying a truckload of groceries at one time. Free refills on soda at restaurants. Knowing the rough age of a residential neighborhood by the dominant housing style there. Always speaking very loudly. Social science. The Commonwealth nations prefer to cite themselves and each other over citing the United States. It's interesting because on one hand, it's completely sensible that their populations are different and more similar. Their populations actually are culturally distinct from the US. On the other hand, the huge vastness of American social science research is overwhelming and sometimes, especially in a technical and methodological sense, decades ahead of what they're doing, even if the population and culture is different. Then you compare to something like East Asia, where even the most developed nations didn't think studying people was worthwhile until only about 30 years ago.